So I just got done enjoying the 60-yard backyard here with friend of Bunjie, Eric. I hope you get a chance to watch those videos if you haven't already. We made some venison smash burgers, talked about hunting on public ground while we were making them, while we were making lunch. It was a great conversation, hopefully made for a great video. In addition to that, we shot a little bit. He had a chance to shoot a couple of crossbows, the original Bunjie, the OB. He also shot the Enforcer. Oh, yeah, can't beat that, huh? Yeah. When he was getting ready to leave, he actually asked me a question. We didn't shoot that on camera. I want to repeat the question, tell you what my answer was. Kind of interesting. His question was, if you had to pick, Rich, if you had to pick, would you hunt with the OB, okay, 36 inches wide, big heavy thing, right, with this scope, this setup, right, which is a pretty pimped out crossbow. It really is. It's got the custom string, right? It's got, the raised cheek piece, of course, a bubble level, and the Burris Oracle X Scope. Other than that, it's pretty, standard, but shoots like 250 feet per second or so with these new heavy arrows. So that's a thing, right? The heavy zombies that I got on here. I got some customs that I helped customize. So would you rather hunt with this setup, real slow and big, right? Or would you rather hunt with a more modern setup like the Enforcer, but you have to take off the scope and not use the Burris Oracle X? Little bit of a caveat there, right? So this beautiful scope, but with a speed scope, right? And my answer was pretty simple. It was pretty easy. And that answer is this. 100%. The Burris Oracle X, I got to tell you, a year into it, or however long I've been using those scopes, a year now or something or more, I don't know. Look them up on the videos, but I'm not going to hunt without that scope, right? I am not going to go back to a speed scope, a speed ring scope. The ability to, use the rangefinder in this with the click of a button, click that button and get that precise yardage, that exact dot. When I set the yard up today, the 60-yard backyard, right? Take a look at that, right? Got targets spread throughout there. If we look at this, let's take a look here, right? A look-see. If you look, I've got the deer, there's the bulldog, the boar, a little tiny block, a bigger block down there. There's the other block way down there and then there's another block over there. Right there, and then we got a coyote here and a little ball over in here, and those are at different yardages. I'm going to stand here with the Burris, okay, and tell you what those yardages are, but it's very interesting. Like if you look at this, I didn't look at these when I set them up. The ball's at 10 yards, coyotes at 14 yards, the chunk target's at 19 yards, the boar is at, the boar is, there we go, 25 yards, the bulldog is at 20 yards, the deer is at 32 from here. The block down there is 41. Other block is 35. And then the distant block is 55. But all those different yardages, when I set these targets up, it was the coolest thing because used to be I'd carry my rangefinder in my pocket and I'd, range to the chair where I'm going to be sitting and set up a target at 20 and at 30 and at 40. Back in the day, I'd set one up at 10 because I always shot at 10 yards. I hardly ever shoot at 10 yards now. But I just sort of randomly set the targets up this morning because I don't care if they're at exact yardages or not. They don't have to be at 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. They can be at 22 or 28. Doesn't matter. That scope takes all of that out. And my experience with accuracy is so much improved with a Burris Oracle X. And when Eric and I were talking, I told him, I said, down the road, these are going to become the standard. They really are, right? Not this model, not Burris, maybe a different model or make or whatever, different company. But the concept is going to be the standard, right? I talked about this in my books. I remember when I first got into crossbow hunting and had a rangefinder and a scope, and I was like, why are they two separate pieces of equipment? It just didn't make sense to me to have them as two separate pieces of equipment. When I first got old Bunjie here 15 years ago, can you believe that? Been hunting with a crossbow now for 15 years. With this crossbow, killing something every year. Some remarkable achievement for this ancient crossbow, this big old clunker, this big old jalopy. with a fancy scope. But I will take the scope over the specific crossbow any day of the week. To me, that scope, especially with this one, even though it's an old slow crossbow, the scope takes all of that difference in yardage out of the equation. It's the way to go. So down the road, I do believe these are the future. Now, the reason I talk about this, I'm only bringing this up now for one reason, and that is that occasionally people do comment, and I'm going to address this throughout Crossbow Appreciation Month. People do comment that, well, Death by Bungie used to be about, simple, cheap, effective, that kind of stuff. And now you're getting all fancy, right? And I understand that. But what I have to do with my crossbow hunting, what I have to do with Death by Bungie, and what I think you should also be doing to some extent, is moving forward. You can't ignore progress, technology. We can't ignore it. It should be something that we take into account as new products become available. I'm not saying you got to get on the latest and greatest. Absolutely not. That is a Death by Bungie axiom. 100%. We don't jump onto the latest and greatest, okay? We avoid the latest and greatest, right? But we do want tried, true, and tested. And those scopes are now becoming tried, true, and tested, aren't they? I have tried, true, and tested them, right? So they are working to the point where when I was talking to friends of Bunjie Eric earlier today, that's one of the things that I'm not willing to negotiate on. That scope has to be on the crossbow that I'm using. And I'm not saying it has to be on your crossbow. I'm not saying that, right? I do think down the road everybody's going to be using these scopes, and it's not going to make sense to not use one. I do believe that. But I will say that you should at least be open-minded about it, right? And maybe try one out and see if it's for you.
In the first Crossbow Appreciation Month video this year, the one piece of gear that Friends of Bungie picked overwhelmingly that they would not hunt without was a rangefinder. And this scope solves that problem 100%.
That's your Crossbow Appreciation Month video for today. What do you think of that? I hope you're enjoying Crossbow Appreciation Month, getting a lot out of this. Leave me your comments. Until next time, all hail Bungie.